Hub worlds are a dime a dozen in the Mario series. Delfino Plaza, Ship-Shape Island, the Kalberg, the Comet Observatory. We have seen so many of differing levels of quality, I think it's fair to say. And while most people probably associate hub worlds with 3D Mario, I have always considered the best one to originate from the Paper Mario branch of the franchise. Calling Rogueport brilliant, beautiful and amazing is quite an ironic thing to do when you think about it. In-universe, this place is a mess, overflowing with criminals, crooks and other shady figures. In fact, it might very well be the worst city to actually visit we have ever seen Mario pass through. I mean, there is a literal white outline of a murdered toad found in the bandit's house in the original Japanese version on GameCube, which was removed in the West as well as all versions of the remake to keep the age rating down. What was kept in all versions was the prominent gallows on the town square, which have since turned into perhaps Rogueport's most famous landmark. And the thing is, they probably can't even use it. I don't know if you've noticed, but the vast majority of Rogueport residents don't even have necks. So either the gallows are for show, or there used to be a lot more residents with longer necks, and well, they went the way of that one toad, so to speak. But speaking of the residents, they are the ones that make this place so grimy and shady, and I say that as a compliment. By far the biggest suppliers of drama to the town are the Pianta Syndicate and the Rabo Thieves, which are involved in a constant turf war for control of the town. It has led to the situation where the east side of town now falls under control of Ishnail, the leader of the Rabo Thieves, while the west is controlled by Don Pianta, head of the syndicate. In a brilliant stroke of environmental storytelling, the difference between these two sides of Rogueport show how different these two criminal organizations are without ever having to say a word. The east is Rogueport at its worst. It's harsh but true. The houses are in extremely poor condition, bandits roam the streets, Gus controls access to the bridge, which leads to several people's houses and establishments FYI, and according to Darkly, this side features the darkest place in town. Which is great for him, but I wouldn't put it on a brochure personally. It shows us what happens to a neighborhood when a group of robbers and petty thieves decide what happens. You get pinched for every single coin. You're never safe, and the area starts to decay to the point no one would ever want to visit it again. While the Rabo Thieves are also behind the Trouble Center, more on that later, it does suit their MO to essentially feign wanting to help the community out, but in practice expecting other folks to actually solve the problems. The contrast with the west side of Rogueport couldn't be bigger. This side is as clean, prosperous and safe as Rogueport is going to get. There's a small park, complete with a little fountain, and residential buildings which look a lot cleaner and more expensive than other houses we see in town. Arguably the most prominent landmark here is the Pianta Parlor though, a casino run by the aforementioned Don Pianta. Unlike their opponents from the other side of town, they appear to take good care of their community and try to turn this into a side of Rogueport you should actually want to visit. Not only is that obviously good business for the parlor, it also mirrors the behavior of the real-life mob. The Pianta Syndicate is not so subtly based on the Sicilian Mafia, who too made sure to take care of the neighborhood around them. After all, it's much easier to exercise control and make sure your illegal activities don't get caught when you're the hero of the people. While we don't hear residents speaking outright positively about Don Pianta and the Pianta Syndicate, purely the fact that West Rogueport is seen as the good side of town shows that the Pianta Syndicate is playing the game of control at a higher level than the petty group of criminals that are the Rabo Thieves. It's this kind of subtle world building and storytelling that Rogueport does so well, and I'm willing to go as far as to say this place is a huge reason as to why the Thousand Year Door is such a beloved title in the community, even if I'm not sure the fanbase always realizes it. Try to think back to your first time playing the game. Maybe you were a youngster in front of a square TV and a GameCube. Maybe you were playing on PC because paying hundreds of dollars for one game was a bridge too far. Or maybe the Switch version was your first time. Either way, I'm willing to bet the way the Thousand Year Door and especially Rogueport deviates expectations made an instant impact on you. How many Mario games start with a Goomba getting harassed, a gallows prominently on screen, and straight up assault in a gang war happening in the background of an introductory cutscene? It immediately screams from the rooftops, we are gonna do something very special and very different here. It puts you on the edge of your seat. While the prologue is gameplay-wise hardly the best chapter of the game, for obvious reasons, it sets the tone of the story and Rogueport so incredibly well. And then I haven't even mentioned that it continues with Mario getting robbed as soon as he sets foot into East Rogueport. The prevalence of cockroaches everywhere, a bar being one of the first places you visit, and one of the nicer looking residents, an older toad named Zesty, turning out to hardly be a ray of sunshine in this shady settlement. It culminates into a highly effective combination of uniqueness within the Mario franchise, while also making sure the shady elements are heavily front-loaded, so you get hit over the head by how rough Rogueport is. In a good way, just to clarify. But okay, tone and mood are important factors into making a good hub area. But at the end of the day, its gameplay is what will truly make you fall in love with not just the game in general, but parts and areas of it as well. And don't worry, Rogueport has got you covered there too. The way the town opens up more and more as the story progresses is done in such a masterful way. It all feels incredibly natural, as well as satisfying, and somehow still obvious, so you're never left to wonder where you have to go. This is where credit has to be given to the Rogueport Underground mostly. I haven't really brought it up at all so far, mostly because I've been focusing on how the town is initially presented to you, and the underground isn't really a factor in that, but the design and layout of this place is absolutely stellar. The way it blends a dungeon-like design, almost like a level if you get what I mean, into a city design in an incredibly natural and seamless way is such an achievement that really helps to make not just Rogueport, but the entire world of the Thousand Year Door feel connected, even when it really barely is. Picture it like this. In many games, Mario included, the transition from a city or a town to a road or a wide open world is usually done pretty abruptly. You walk through a gate or a loading screen and suddenly the city is gone and you're now on the road. But in real life, there usually is a transitional area in between. As you drive out of a city across the highway, there is no abrupt end to a city, but buildings slowly begin to decrease in number until you realize you're out of the city now. That's what the Rogueport Underground is as well. Start walking from the ruins of the thousand-year-old town, clearly a residential area, and eventually you find yourself in what feels like a separate level or world with enemies and puzzles to solve. But it all happens so seamlessly. I couldn't tell you where the residential area of Rogueport Underground ends and the more dungeon-like parts begin. Hell, Merle resides on the same screen as where the puzzles and enemies begin. That's exactly the kind of stuff I'm talking about. And not only is Merle the perfect example of how especially the Rogueport Underground blends its function as a hub world with the start of the adventure in the untamed wilderness, she is also merely a small fraction of the many side activities that can be done and found in the city of Rogueport. Many have already been mentioned here and there, since they play a role in the world building of the city as well, and the list is too long to go past every single one, but I want to zoom in on one specific element of them that I have always loved. They're optional. Almost every fun little extra thing you can do in Rogueport is entirely optional, to the point even something massive like the Trouble Center, which essentially carries the game's entire side quest system on its back, is completely missable. You can finish the entire game without ever setting foot in this building. And while I may not be a huge fan of the side quests in the Thousand Year Door, to the point I would actually consider them the weakest point in the game from a gameplay perspective, the fact the game allows you to either intentionally skip or unintentionally miss something that clearly had a lot of time and effort poured into it is something I always greatly respect. Not only does it mean you can replay the game and not be forced to engage in something you perhaps didn't enjoy or don't feel like doing again, it also serves as a stellar reward for exploring and diving deeper into the game. I mean, there is a literal extra partner hidden among these many fetch quests, and at no point does the game force you to engage with it. It shows a level of respect to the player's desires and offers a level of freedom that very few games do, and is a telltale sign that you're playing a masterpiece of a game. It almost makes you wonder how we lost these qualities along the way, because while I'm definitely not the type you'll find to often be complaining about stuff like hand-holding, I mean, I love even the recent Pokemon games and they are much worse about this stuff, the level of freedom we see in the Thousand Year Door never returned in the Paper Mario series. The game's openings have gone from a masterful setup of the world, like the prologue in Rogueport, to the biggest slog portion of the game. Especially on replays, with the constant tutorials, it's such a shame. I really hope that remaking the Thousand Year Door for Switch has allowed the team over at Intelligent Systems to realize and refamiliarize themselves with what made this game, but really the Paper Mario series in general, so amazing. I don't think the series died in quality after this title, don't get me wrong. If anything, I think the later games are a tad underrated even. But one thing is for certain. The highs of Rogueport have never been hit again. Not in a Paper Mario game, but frankly, not in a Mario game, period. But hey, that's just what I think. How do you feel about Rogueport and the 1000 Year Door in general? Share it in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like and subscribe to the channel to stay updated on all my future Mario content coming up. For now, thanks for watching and enjoy the rest of your day.